Flight Risk is the latest movie directed by Mel Gibson, starring Mark Wahlberg. Following an officer of the law who's transporting a witness for a very important trial, they'll quickly learn their pilot isn't who they say they are, because it's a bald Mark Wahlberg who has a hillbilly accent.
Y'all need a pilot?
Boy, what the heck did I just sit through? Yeah, I don't know how many views I would get if I just titled this Flight Risk is ... review. You know my usual stick for reviews. I have to lay it flat on how it is. And I think being honest in the title is going to help to brack in some views. And you got to admit, you clicked on it because I said it. Flight Risk is my first bad movie of 2025. Where do I even begin, man? So look, I honestly was not expecting much from this movie. In fact, I was honestly a little excited for it because I thought the premise sounded interesting. This idea that you have a hitman who's also the pilot of a plane, so you can't really kill him and get rid of him because you need him to land this thing. I'm also fond of Topher Grace. I feel like he doesn't get enough to do in Hollywood, and I was so dumbsmacked by the fact that Mark Wahlberg is just randomly bald in this movie, not addressed at all in the film. Kind of cool, I guess. But it's definitely the kind of choice that makes you go, I need an explanation. I need a reason for why Mark Wahlberg is all of a sudden bald. But also the thing that maybe doesn't even get people excited anymore is Mel Gibson is the director. You know, nowadays people have really strong opinions on Mel Gibson, and trust me, I understand. But here, as just trying to review movies and keep it lighthearted and fun, I'm gonna put that stuff aside and just be honest. I think Mel Gibson is a talented director. The last movie he did 10 years ago, Hacksaw Ridge, starring Andrew Garfield, I thought that was a really solid movie. He did Apocalypto, a film I actually really love and thought it was super well directed, and the movie that earned him his Oscar, Braveheart. Thank you to this movie for making 7th grade history class not boring. How many else out there watch Braveheart in history class? Yeah. Good times. So, Mel Gibson has proven himself. He knows what to do when he gets behind a camera. So why does this feel like the most cheap, low-budget, straight-to-bargain bin movie I've seen in a long time? I knew something was up when the opening first shot of this movie was an AI-generated video of a snowy motel. I can't be 100% sure on that, but I am 99% sure. You know how AI just has that really weird polished look to it? That's exactly what I got from the opening. And that should have been my immediate first sign to just stand up, walk out of the theater, and save yourself an hour and a half. But I chose to ignore it. What follows then is a movie that is just filled with some of the most atrocious, terrible dialogue, setting this awkward tone all throughout the movie. This film, I don't know if it's attempting to be purposely awkward or it thinks it's actually being funny, but a lot of the humor in this film just falls flat.
Michelle, you're an accomplished actress. No need to tell you what to do. Just hit your mark. Whoa! Michelle, no, I said hit your mark, not hit Mark. Please, stop! Oh.
I mentioned I like Topher Grace, but also he hasn't had the best career in Hollywood and has barely done anything noteworthy outside of Spider-Man 3.
Ooh, my spider sense is tingling. If you know what I'm talking about.
And sadly, here his role as this witness who's about to go on trial, he just comes off very whiny, bratty, complains a lot throughout the movie. Not an extremely likable character you're hoping survives throughout the film. The female officer, played by Michelle Dockery, also just isn't given the material to succeed in this movie. 95% of this movie takes place within that airplane, and with that, there's a lot of dialogue that requires the person piloting the plane to talk to someone on the phone, get instructions, figure out what's going on, and it's so horribly dubbed. What I mean by that is you could tell the actor was not directly talking to somebody on the phone while they were filming. No, they're talking, pausing for a couple seconds as dialogue is filled in, and then they're responding to that. Basically, it's like what I'm about to do right now. Did you say something, Mom?
Yes, honey, your weenies are out the oven.
Okay, Mom, I'll be right there. I'll get down for my weenies. And there's minutes upon minutes of that dialogue, and it's just not timed correctly, where there's a lot of awkward pauses. The back and forth feels extremely off. And honestly, to make matters worse, that is about as exciting as this movie gets. You are almost paying a ticket just to see someone who doesn't know how to fly a plane for almost an hour and a half. Because let's just get on to it here. The probably main reason anybody would buy a ticket for this Marky Mark, Mr. Mark Wahlberg himself. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping Mark Wahlberg would just make this fun because his character looks kooky, wacky, and I'm like, that's what I'm gonna get out of this. It's not gonna be a great movie, but it's gonna be a fun one. He starts off with this really terrible southern accent of, hey, you need a pilot? Well, my mama done cooked me up a good pilot, and I'm gonna get you there lickety-split. And thank goodness he only talks like that for like the first 10 minutes, and then he just goes into his regular Mark Wahlberg voice. Hey, I'm Mark Wahlberg. Say hi to your mother for me. Best Mark Wahlberg impression you're gonna get out of me. But you can tell Mark Wahlberg and the screenwriter were trying to make this a really crazy, deranged character. The haircut suits the personality, but the more he starts talking and the more things he says, he goes from like entertaining, fun, bad to just creepy and uncomfortable. I'm not exaggerating when I say about 60 to 50% of the dialogue Mark Wahlberg has in this movie are grape jokes. Without the G. Yeah, if you wanted to see Mark Wahlberg just consistently make references to wanting to bang Topher Grace or this police lady, hey, this is the movie for you. You could tell he was doing it at first to play mind games or just to really mess with his victims, because this is a guy who like purposely wants to take his time with the people he captures and just have his fun. But after like the 20th joke about wanting to put his willy in places it doesn't belong, I'm just like, What movie am I watching? And again, that's just a choice the movie decides to make. I'm like, okay, maybe he just makes me uncomfortable in that sense, but he's still gonna be very conniving, very sneaky. He'll do things to get himself out of being handcuffed, make himself also so useful that they can't kill him. Honestly, he spends way too much time handcuffed, not doing anything. I do not blame Mark Wahlberg at all for taking this easy paycheck, because most of his days consisted of him just being like this. My line? Okay. And even the moments he does escape or get out of his cuffs and something thrilling can happen, lasts a matter of 5-10 seconds before he's just put right back down, and we just have him sit down until the next 20 minutes where he gets back up, and then he'll do something crazy for 10-15 seconds. Then we put him back in his place. And that kind of pattern, and our two characters just trying to learn how to fly a plane over the phone, with another pilot on the phone who just decides to spend most of his time hitting on the woman flying the plane, and she's flattered by it. I don't know how with the dialogue and pickup lines they gave this guy, but it actually works, and it's supposed to be a sweet thing that while this girl's panicking, trying to figure out how to fly the plane, the guy's like, hey, you're going to do fine. Would you like to get some dinner? I know a good place. Yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds nice. You're handsome? Oh, very handsome. You can't wait to see me. Again, I'm like, what movie am I watching? This was just not checking the boxes for me. You know, something I want to bring up, and it's kind of the real reason I wanted to put this review out there. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Carry On that just came out about a month ago on Netflix, starring Taron Egerton. Well, it looks like there's a lot of like-minded people where I was watching this movie and thinking, this kind of film belongs in the same category as Carry On. Not because I think they're awful movies, but because I think they're modern day films that try to throw back to a time, whether the late 80s or 90s, of action thriller movies that had interesting premises and there was a bit of cheese and charm that helped them be memorable films. I watched Netflix's Carry On and actually ended up really liking that movie. Not gonna say it was a perfect film and it didn't have flaws, it for sure did, but that had the charm, it had the vibe of a B-action movie I would watch in the 90s, and it kept me entertained and on my toes for the entire watch. But I remember when that movie came out, there was a large number of people that was like, oh, it was awful, it was terrible, this is nothing like my old 90s action movies. Everything that people criticize Carry On for, 10 times worse in Flight Risk. This was actually charming and fun. This is just so dumb and bad, it slightly then goes to entertain. And that's really the biggest positive I can give Flight Risk. I think there is going to be some people that'll walk out of this movie having a good enough time, laughing at some of the absurdity, silliness of this film, defending it maybe by saying, oh, it was intentional, it was a vibe they were going for. You think they were really trying to take themselves seriously with giving Mark Wahlberg a haircut like that? I don't care, just at least do it charming. There was no charm in this. But look, I'm happy if you walked out smiling from this. It was the kind of movie that when it awkwardly ended the way it did, I couldn't help but to sit back, screen fade to black, credits start to roll, and I'm clapping, ironically, going, brilliant. So for Flight Risk, I'm gonna give action 2 stars. It mainly takes place within the cockpit of a plane. The shenanigans and action within that plane are super limited, and most of the time you're just watching 2 people learn how to fly a plane. Commenting the movie 1 star. It attempts to be humorous, throw out a joke here and there, but the charm is just not there, and my theater was deadly silent. I think there was really only 1 or 2 times I did audibly laugh, but for a good majority, I'm just chuckling at how absurd this movie turned out to be. Drama in the movie, also 1 star. It did not do enough to keep things interesting. The trailer painted a picture that there was maybe a lot more going on. I've seen plenty of 1 location movies where they can keep things interesting, and this was just not one of them. Horror in the movie, I guess 1 star, just because, dude, Mark Wahlberg's a sicko in this movie. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars, since there really isn't a lot going on throughout the movie, and it's very predictable. You're more just kind of waiting for it to be over. Casual moviegoers, I'm gonna give it a B-. This is exactly the kind of movie your coworker who watches like 2 films a year watches and goes, dude, that thing was awesome. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it an F, and critically, I'm gonna give it an F. Carry On should have gone to theaters, and this thing should have gone straight to streaming. And there are some that'll be able to find enjoyment on it there, but honestly, I'd tell you to avoid this.
No, please, please don't say that.
Again, that's just my opinion on Flight Risk. I'd really like to hear from you guys if you were someone that found this movie to be really good or entertaining, or maybe you were like me and were just severely disappointed with this thing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.